Welcome to Joyful Sober, a series of conversations with creatives, entrepreneurs, and downright fun people doing extraordinary things beyond drinking alcohol. I'm Alison Lassick, and today I'm chatting with Kirsten Chalmers of Point Zero Cellars. But first, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. I'd like to pay my deepest respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening into our conversation. So, welcome, Kirsten. Kirsten is the director and founder of Point Zero Cellars, an alcohol free beverage store aimed at improving the experience of not drinking by adding quality products to the mix. They also donate $1 for every order to mental health. And Kirsten is also a registered psychologist, so comes to the non-alcoholic space with a very interesting and unique perspective. Yeah, so thanks for coming on Joyful Sober, Kirsten. So great to have you here.
Thank you, and thank you for the lovely introduction.
Yeah, pleasure. I wonder if to kick things off, you could tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start Point Zero Cellars and how long you have been in business.
Okay, so it's all a bit of a whirlwind. When our first COVID hit last year, I was happily working in private practice. I've got a little therapy dog called Nugget. We were working directly with kids, so very face-to-face, very hands-on, and of course, COVID struck, and suddenly we weren't allowed to be face-to-face, and we had to switch to online. Which for many psychologists is easy and doable, but when you're working with kids, it's not that good. So I found it quite tricky. I tried everything from board games to, whatever, but they really wanted to be face-to-face, be with Nugget and have some time out of their home. So I took a break. I decided, you know what, I need a good time to recharge. Maybe COVID will just blow over by some history. Wouldn't that be great? So I did actually think we wouldn't have to suffer this too long. Took a 6-month break, and on Christmas Day decided part of the break would mean a break from alcohol. A year off. I thought a year would be good, just to give me some real insight as to how that would feel and really change habits, because we talk about changing habits in a short amount of time, but really changing habits takes time. And so I began the journey, and I listened to podcasts and got to know the sober community and all the good people, mostly actually overseas, who were doing good work. And I thought, this is great. By day 45, my life was looking a lot more cheerful. Like in myself, I couldn't believe the change. And not that it was that bad. I'll probably consider myself the average drinker, probably heavy drinker. I mean, I was drinking 3-4 glasses of wine quite happily. But I think that's pretty common. And I wasn't really struggling or didn't feel like I was. I just felt tired, and I felt overworked and COVID and all that kind of stuff. But then I just, had this new lease for life. And I just thought, I've really got to do something in this market. It's just got to be easier for people to do this. A, it needs to be a mental thing, but B, it needs to be an access thing. So it can't just be a mental shift, but also here are all the products available. You don't even need to consider drinking. Since when does alcohol beverage or adult drinking equal alcohol? It could be something else. It doesn't have to be tea. I'm not a tea drinker.
Yes, I can see that picture of wine back there on your wall as well. It's nice that you can still enjoy a red without needing to be drinking alcohol. It's great. It really does change the scenario.
And I think, so for me, my husband still drinks, so many can remove alcohol from their worlds completely. I'm not in that position. And so for me, it's really become, he has his wine and I'll have mine. So I don't even feel like I'm not drinking, actually. It's really odd, because I am very ingrained in that whole culture. I think that's a hard shift to remove that beautiful little glass and that feeling of, relaxing. I just do it without the actual toxin.
Yeah, exactly. You still get to still have those moments of celebration, but with something healthy for you. Yeah, amazing.
And I think when I think of my kids, and they are 13 and 15, and I think when I was 15, to be an adult, to be big and important and mature, you drank. And I just would love for them to just be able to bring a non-alcoholic, sparkling or wine to a party, and people don't even ask what's in your drink. Why would you bother?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's really interesting. And you were talking about all this extra energy that came up, and I'm curious around, I guess the psychology or a lot of the people that I've been speaking to. One of the things that keeps coming up as well is this feeling of being sort of less irritable, more emotionally available, and more energy for loved ones. And I'm just curious if that's something that you found personally, and also if you know what that comes down to.
Well, I won't go too much into the heaviness of it, but I guess the basics of it is if you're human, you're going to feel anxiety and depression and all those things. So I don't think this is necessarily just in the mental health space. I think we all feel anxiety, we all feel depression to some degree at some point. And when you talk about, for instance, antidepressants, you're working with the chemicals in the brain like dopamine and serotonin and noradrenaline, norepinephrine. I can never say that word. Anyway, but you're working with the very same chemicals that alcohol has an effect on. So, for example, when you take an antidepressant, you are working on, or it is working on serotonin. And these are the very same things that the toxin's working on, but negatively. So, in other words, we know that alcohol is a stimulant and a depressant. So the first few, 20 minutes, absolutely, you feel good, and it's, it peaks, but it drops in 20 minutes. It's hardly worth it because after that, you start having the negative effects of alcohol. And I think we really don't notice that we're dealing with a toxin. We're introducing a toxin. And so that then has an effect on mood, of course. So you're more irritable and more, little things frustrate you. But also your sleep. I mean, I don't think we really realize or sort of think how important sleep is. A good night's sleep changes your world. So if you're waking up every day, sort of, feeling a bit groggy and it takes you till 10 o'clock to really ramp up, or maybe a caffeine fix to do it quicker, but still not very well, how can you possibly be working at your best? How can you have the energy? How can you do your yoga or, any kind of clear work with that in your body?
Yeah. It's interesting you say yoga. That I really found that to be such a difference. I was always sort of practicing yoga, but I never really felt any great benefits from it until I stopped drinking. I was like, oh wow, it was sort of providing a solid foundation for all these other things to start actually working.
Yeah, I mean, you roll out your yoga mat after having a couple of wines the night before. Do you really think the magic's going to happen?
I don't know. Maybe you hope so.
Yeah, and I guess you're working against yourself because, you could probably do your yoga session pretty well with a couple of, wines, down the night before. But you know yourself, when you don't add that, there's a level that you reach that you just go, wow, and this is natural. So I always used to be very, not anti, but I didn't sort of promote antidepressants, probably because I was an ed and dev psych, or am an ed and dev psych. So, you want every other option to try every option first. And so I always used to say things like, well, you've got to go for a walk, and you've got to have good sleep, and you've got to have nutrition. And at some point, I kept having to ask, well, especially parents I work with, are you introducing alcohol into your life? Because aren't you just sabotaging all those things if you are drinking at the same time? I mean, and look, I'm not anti-alcohol. My husband drinks. It's not about being, again, exclusive and just focusing on all the non-drinkers. It's just to say, keep it to weekends. If you want to do something crazy on the weekend, go for it. But then, get back to life, get back to looking after yourself as you would, eating a dessert. You would think about it. You'd be mindful about how many desserts you eat in a week. You wouldn't just slug it because you're chatting to friends.
Yeah. And do you think that that's well received by people that you talk to about it, or do you think that that creates any sort of resistance by bringing up something like that?
Yes, you're bringing up, isn't it funny? Because obviously you and I are talking, when you talk to anyone in the sober space, they all nod, very much in agreement. And then you move out of that space and you think that this language is common to everyone, right? Mindful drinking, sober curious, all that sort of thing. And my brother, I have to say, he's going to love me for this comment, but he was like, why would you do it? Why would you buy a non-alcoholic beverage? Like, he just didn't get it. And I just thought, I actually don't know where to start. So, yeah, I have those discussions, but I think slowly, the more people come out there, the more people are demonstrating that they're having fun without a beverage in their hand, or a beverage that doesn't have toxin in their hand, the better. So it's going to be leading by example.
Yeah, yep, that makes sense. And did that type of feeling inspire Point Zero Cellars as well?
Yeah, so I guess so then the next step was, how do I get this message out there? So for a little bit, I tried to get it out to clients. I thought, let me just, work with clients about that. And then I just thought, then I'm sort of entering the addiction space, and I'm not an addiction specialist, and I didn't really want to be an addiction specialist. I work with mums and kids and families and, normal sort of run-of-the-mill stuff. I didn't want to enter rehab centers. And so I thought, I can't, because I'm really not an addiction specialist. Plus, if those people are coming to the rooms, that means they already know about the perils of alcohol. I mean, I really don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
They are there. They know. So how do I get this message out to normal people to just think about it, not let it get to the point where it's a struggle or where you have to, find your low, which everyone talks about. I didn't find my low. I don't know about you, but it was just a conscious choice to take a year off. It wasn't sort of, I'm having blackouts and I need to do something about this. It wasn't that at all. And yet the benefits were still massive. So the next step was, okay, let me drink a few. And honestly, didn't love them. There were a couple out there. I just thought, oh, right, this is going to take some getting used to. Look, two things. I do think your palate does adjust. So I think the longer you off it, the more you can actually taste the more subtle flavors of the beverage, because we know alcohol actually tastes foul. I mean, it's an acquired taste, right? Why is that acquired? It's acquired because your brain associates pleasure with this foul taste, and so therefore will tolerate it. It doesn't start off as a pleasant drink. In fact, it's filled with sugar often to make it so. So then on my journey, looking for alcohol that tasted good, and there's a lot out there, but I wanted to add to the whole scene. So there is a lot out there. There's a lot of choice, but a lot of it is online. And really, it should be in every retail store. It should be in every restaurant, every cafe, every venue should have a list of alcohol-free options. So I'm just adding to that. And so I import. If you can tell, I have an accent. I'm South African originally. So that was my first point of call. I just went back to my roots, and because I know the wines, and tried them. Of course, loved them, bought some of those in. And then had to go further afield for the spirits. So gone to Canada. I work with a group called Sexy AF, and I just loved the name because I just thought, this is sexy. I don't want to be, a grumpy old man swirling my, whiskey lookalike. I want to do something that goes into cocktails and is fun.
Yeah.
So, that's what inspired that brand. And beers we haven't got yet, because beers, the market is pretty strong in Melbourne, or in Australia anyway. And adding to that, I really want to find something that works. So still looking for that, but going to keep it small, going to keep it niche, because it's really just about adding to what's already there and saying, try these. These need to go into venues as well.
Yeah, amazing. And have you had good traction getting it into venues and restaurants? And how do you go about that?
Well, obviously, being in lockdown, no. It's very early days, but we are on it. So we don't just do everything direct. I can't possibly run everything myself. So we go through suppliers. So we're going to use a couple of suppliers and getting queries through there. And obviously got orders. We're only 110 days old. So it's still
amazing.
days, but I think the statistics are massive. I think they're predicting a growth so I think it's gone up by, the non-alcoholic beverages have gone up by 3% in 2020, and they're due to go to something like 21% by 2024.
Yeah, wow. It doesn't surprise me at all. The people I've been talking to on this show and meeting in the non-alcoholic space, a lot of people have sort of stopped drinking as a result of the pandemic or in this time. It's given people a lot of opportunity, sort of readdress how we're doing things, and definitely seems to be gaining momentum into 2021.
And I think it's a perfect time. I mean, for me, it was always, I'm a social drinker. So then when it got to the pandemic and I'm on my health kick and my break from life, I was like, well, how does this work? Kirsten, you're telling yourself you're a social drinker. It's not incredibly social right now.
Yeah.
Holding on to that drink. Plus, you're not working, so technically you're not stressed. So yeah, it really gave me an opportunity to really think through your mindset. I know it's not about your journey as much, but I'm guessing you understand what that's like to go through the process of removing it from your body, but then also those little triggers that come up, like, oh, I feel like a glass of wine, and having to stop and go, why do I feel like that? I mean, do I really feel like the taste, or is there something else to it?
Yeah. For me, always felt as though if I'd had an alcohol-free day, then the next day was easier. But once I had had one drink, it would be very hard not to have the next and to get into that cycle of just having another one. So, yeah, that was also part of the motivation, just to keep not drinking in a way, because I know if I have a drink, I'll be back into it again.
Because now I have had a mindful drink or two. So I've been to Cairns, and we were on a lovely beach, and breaking from Melbourne, you really like to have a break, and so of course my mind immediately went to, well, I'm on a beach and it's holiday, must have a cocktail. And so I decided, you know what, I think after 6 months in, I can't remember, I thought, you know what, I'm going to actually order the thing. And I actually did enjoy it. So, but it was different. Instead of saying, it's the reverse of where I was. Instead of saying, I'll have an alcohol-free day today, I now say, I might have a beverage today. So it's completely sort of flipped the way I think.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I don't tell myself I'm never going to drink, and I don't tell myself, that I need to be sober. I really struggle with that word sober. It sort of feels like it's something I have to impose on myself, and therefore I have to go without for the rest of my life. No, I pick one bottle of wine, my husband picks the other time. And, they stay open for a couple of days on the shelf, and he drinks his and I drink mine, and it doesn't even feel like I'm not drinking.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's so interesting. I really feel that as well. Once my body sort of got used to not having alcohol all the time, it doesn't feel like it's missing out all the time. But at the start, like in the first month, probably even longer than the first month, really, it really felt every day like I was depriving myself of something that I really wanted. And that's why I sort of also wonder about the dry July and 1 month off challenges. It's so hard in that first month. It's not giving anyone an impression of what it's going to be like.
It's true. And it's funny because I do have a 30-day challenge on my website because it's so commonplace. But I do feel like writing, don't just do 30 days, honey. You're putting yourself through the worst of it, and the best comes after that. So, but I guess 30 days, for me, I probably did the 30 days a few times before I took a year off. So I think it is a nice preamble to wanting to do more. So I'll never diss the 30 days, but I'm absolutely with you. It's the hardest part. It's on your mind, and it's terrible that it is, but it's on your mind all the time. And it took me 2 seasons. So I had to get used to what it was like not drinking when it was warm, and then not drinking when it was cold. So I actually found another trigger somewhere along the line when winter or colder days struck, because I was fine with my non-alcoholic beers. I was kind of like sipping on that. I'm not a beer drinker, so it was easy to enjoy the taste. I was like, oh, okay, this is settled. But then it came to winter, and I had this bing, hang on, it's cold. You need something to warm yourself. Come on, Kirsten, you've done this for a while. You don't need to really stick to this, do you? What are you doing this for? I was like, there's a trigger going on right there. So funnily enough, what I tend to do a lot of is mulled wine, or I think it's Glühwein. So it's just a heated wine. So you can't get the heat out of a non-alcoholic wine because there's no toxin warming your body up. But if you actually heat it and add a bit of cinnamon, and I add some cloves and some lemon, it's not a tea, so I don't feel like I'm sitting being a granny, but it's also not, and it's warming. And so I'm doing that. So when I realized, okay, I've got my two go-to points, summer and winter, it's been easy.
Perfect. Yeah, the mulled one I was really enjoying over winter as well. It almost makes the non-alcoholic reds taste better as well when you add some spices and a bit of warmth in there. I was finding the flavour goes up a notch.
And I do think, and that's a good point, I'll actually experiment now that you mention that. I do think keeping the bottle open, just as you would with a normal red, I think that works the same actually for non-alcoholic wines, because, and maybe that's just because I have it in my pot of tea and I can really smell the smell of a wine. I don't know how to describe that. Non-alcohol smell, it's the wine smell, really does come up in the teapot. And I've got a beautiful glass teapot, so it looks pretty. I'm all about looking pretty too. I've got special glasses. I've redone my whole bar area. I've actually got that on my Instagram feed. I just thought the whole thing needs to look pretty. I'm not being part of the scene. I'm just changing what the scene looks like.
Yeah, that's great. I think glasses is so important. You can almost have your kombucha in a wine glass and it still feels special, It's about making an occasion out of it in the same way.
And you know what it's like. Once you've done it for a while, you actually really enjoy interacting. As long as I just felt it's almost like a comfort to have something in my hand, but it really doesn't matter what it is. And once you get rid of the urge to have alcohol, you can do it. I really don't have an issue at all. In fact, I look at others and I feel a tiny bit sorry for them.
Yeah, you guys should be jealous of this drink. I love it. Are there any other big changes to your life that you found since you stopped drinking so often?
Well, huge. I mean, look, I'm a mum, so I've got a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. They're both girls, and they have been my biggest sort of supporters, and it's just lovely to be modelling a world of not drinking. I grew up with my mum and dad partying. We used to have barbecues, very similar to the lifestyle here, barbecues, and the booze would flow the whole weekend. And as soon as I was old enough, I headed straight to the bar. Whereas my kids, my husband and I celebrated our anniversary recently at 23 years. Oh my God.
Oh, congratulations.
And we opened a bottle of non-alcoholic champagne, and I still treat it as an alcoholic beverage, so my kids don't obviously drink it regularly, but it was nice to be able to pour them a little sip and know that I'm not introducing any tolerances, because you know that with alcohol, the younger you have it, the more tolerant, and it has an impact on drinking later in life. So I knew I wasn't doing anything bad, but it really felt good to actually share this moment with my kids, and they can't wait to do TikToks and what have you. With my beverages, but unfortunately I said they still have to be 18, even though it's not alcoholic. It doesn't feel right to have kids at 50, where she's turning 16, pouring mocktails. So she has to wait, but they're very excited about it. So it's been good for the family to do something different, and I guess to show, and they consider me a bit of a, mom's such a leader out there. She's doing things differently, and that's great. I really love that. I can do that.
Yeah, that's incredible. You're a great female role model.
Thank you. And I don't want to do it from a space of my mum knows the perils of drinking through being a psychologist. That's sort of putting a negative spin on it. I'd rather it was, mum's chosen to do this, and it works really well for our family, so I can't see why they won't continue. I'm not at all saying that they're not going to drink. I'm not silly. And I'm not at all saying that they won't have hangovers, but I just don't want it to be a regular everyday thing.
Yeah, you're presenting another option in another way. And I think a lot of the messaging that we get, it does feel normal to have 4 drinks in an evening. It feels like that's what everyone else is doing, and it doesn't seem like something that needs to be questioned necessarily. So it is good definitely to present, other ways of being, and for not to feel as if your daughters or others are the odd one out by choosing to do something differently.
Yeah, and honestly, the energy is there. I'm not a particularly um, what's the word? Sport was never my big thing. I was a bit of an academic, not so much a sporty person. But now, I'm happy to, because what do you do at 5, 6 o'clock? We'll go for a walk or we'll do something. I mean, COVID does that too. You're more forced to go out and do things as a family. But it is, normally I would just, days over, 5:30, I'm having my glass of wine as I make my dinner, don't ask for anything else, kids. Now it's like, okay, dinner's done, let's go for a quick walk, then we'll come back, have dinner, settle in for the evening. It does change, just naturally changes the routine.
Yeah, nice. Because you're not, I guess you don't have that off switch in the same way, but you're finding healthy ways of winding down. Like the walk is almost replacing that marker at the end of the day for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder whether you did that too. You had to replace, like at one point we had to do something like, oh, I really feel like that wine. Let me go for a walk instead. Let me see if the moment passes, right?
Yes.
And then suddenly you go, actually, gosh, I've been sitting all day. Like maybe I should just go for a walk. And so you build on your mental health without actually having to do it. It's sort of effortless. And so
Mm.
why would you introduce this toxin that takes all of that away? And really, you've got to ask for what benefit, because I never really felt the benefit. The amount of days I'd wake up going, why do I wake up like this? Why do I feel like this? I do it.
Yeah, I hear you because it just becomes so normal, doesn't it? And you're right, the intuitive need when you're sitting with those cravings is to opt for a more healthy kind of self-care option. So it's almost like a cumulative effect because it's not just taking the alcohol away, but then adding in something that's going to be doing you good as well, like a jog or a walk or yeah.
And I think it's because you actually are more in touch with what's really going on for you. You probably recognize, even if you haven't said it to yourself in so many words, gosh, I'm feeling irritated because I've been sitting all day. You don't have to say those words. You just go, I have a need for a walk. It's the same thing. Your body's still saying you've been sitting too long. You need to do something. You need to get rid of that energy. You need some of those endorphins. But you don't, you know what I mean? You're doing it automatically. It just becomes a healthy lifestyle. It really is more effortless.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think listening to yourself is a big one, and for me, like feeling as though I'm more in touch with that most authentic version of me, even if it's a bit awkward and there are some inhibitions there or some discomfort or whatever it might be. Just to be with that and to work with it or something feels really empowering as well.
Totally. And I think, socially, when we do get more social, I think for me, I had to realize that no one likes to walk into a room, or I don't like to walk into a room. You do feel awkward. No one would pick it with me because I just have I play a role. But inside, I'm feeling like everyone else. And I'm like, oh, I don't know anyone here, and this is awkward. So for me, it was actually just holding a glass. That was my comfort. And so as soon as I could do that and not worry what was in it, I would talk and hardly take a sip for ages because that was okay. That was enough. And so if you find your comfort something when you're social, it doesn't have to be what's inside the drink. And if you watch really carefully, I think mindful drinking is completely thrown out the window when you drink socially. I've actually watched people drink faster as the music goes up or as the conversation speeds up. It's mindless drinking at its best. So if you're going to drink, my advice is drink mindfully, drink at home, and take your alcohol-free beverage out. Does that make sense? That sounds almost
Yeah.
counterintuitive.
No, it really does. And I've heard restaurants in Melbourne using that as a strategy to get people to drink more is putting the music up. So when it's harder to hear the conversation and it's loud and it's got that more of a happening vibe, then more alcohol gets sold. So it's not surprising at all. We move into that sort of more mindless space in those occasions. And in the first sort of month or so when going out, I found it really valuable to go say you see a band or something where there's something happening that's other than just standing around drinking and talking to people. Like to have another point of focus is also really helpful just for a while until you get comfortable. doing that. Yeah.
And I think you reevaluate some of your relationships because you do realize some of the talk is really boring. Like in the beginning, I could do about 2 hours max. I was like, and now we've reached the point where you're no longer making sense.
Yeah.
So I bow out. Like I'm like, yeah, I'll pop in, but as soon as it just becomes silly, like it's just too frustrating to watch, and I wasn't getting anything out of it. And then I'd have to ask myself, am I here for you or am I here for me? So if I was becoming it's here for you, then maybe it's time to leave.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It does seem like 2 hours is about that point in a way. And it feels much longer. And I looked this up because it's like when you've had quite a bit of drink, it's almost like the time slips away and you can sit around talking rubbish with people for 6 hours and the time just disappears. But when you haven't had a drink at all, time's just going at its normal pace. So 2 hours is actually long enough usually to catch up with everyone and
exactly to shoot the breeze. I think I've become now more diverse in my types of interactions too. So, for example, and look, I'm not a gambler, but we play poker now. No money involved, just kind of you cash in 1,000 coins. And that I can do because now it's about a game. So now I understand when people, the nerds, play games and, sit around doing things like that. And now I also want to, like when people come over, I'm like, well, let's do something. We don't want to just drink. So, it's all about just not just drinking, but actually having fun together, and playing a game of tennis if you can, or doing things like that, rather than just going. And when I go with my friends now, obviously being in COVID, we have to walk. But now it's having a walk with the dog, and we chat non-stop. Like the time flies, but it's not over alcohol, and I still get like plenty of interaction.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's cool. And I hadn't really thought about this so much, but because I haven't been drinking at my work, we've changed. We used to have what was called Thirsty Thursdays, and everyone would go for a drink on a Thursday. And we'd knock off early, and it would be like a bonding exercise. But now, with someone who doesn't drink all the time, a lot of them will come up with an activity to do, like go bowling or do something else. And I can definitely see that everyone, it's not just me who's been getting a lot of value out of those, interactive games or whatever it might be that add something to the occasion.
It's totally different. I mean, I used to be a smoker as well, so I've done all the bad things in the social world. And I used to I used to talk to my boss while we smoked outside on the balcony while everyone was inside working. And I used to find it a real connection. And I think when I was in corporate before psychology, drinking was an absolute game changer. It absolutely made those connections. But that needs to change. The whole thing needs to change, just as it did with smoking. It's going to change. It will change.
Yeah, yep. And potentially as more knowledge about the impacts of alcohol come to light as well. I guess with smoking, there was also a period where people weren't as aware. I mean, the knowledge was out there, but it wasn't mainstream, the impact that it was having necessarily. But it feels as though maybe with alcohol, some of that stuff is starting to come more to the foreground slowly as well.
It will. You and I watch this space. We're in the right place to be. Fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting. Like I didn't know necessarily that there was so many people out there in this sort of space of doing active, non-drinking, sober businesses or initiatives until you kind of stop and look at it. Like it seems as though once you're in it, it seems as though it's everywhere, but actually I didn't have any clue before I stopped that there was even really anyone else thinking about that. It felt like a really solo pursuit in a way, in a culture that's soaked with booze.
And my brother is the epitome of that because he probably thinks, what is Kirsten doing? Why is she selling this lookalike beverage? Where is she going with this idea? Little does he know that I think I have an inside track, as you do, and I think it will explode. And those people that go, what was that all about? Will suddenly go,
yeah.
They might not love it, but it has its place.
Yeah. And is this your second business with your psychology practice as well? Are you running two businesses concurrently? And no, not concurrently.
I think I'm part psychologist, part entrepreneur.
Yeah.
my previous work was actually in corporate, so that was my only employed type of work. And I actually was a recruiter. I was working in human resources, so I used to recruit graduates to big corporate companies, and internal recruiting, so sort of accounting firms, consulting firms. And I left there because I wanted to have children and I wanted to be more present to my kids. And so that's when I did my master's in psychology. And of course, I think at some point you just realize I'm not employable anymore. I just want to do things my way. And that was the first time I did my own business. And so this is the second time. And I'm very lucky to have my husband keeping us afloat while I let this thing grow. But I am putting all my energies into this because I
fantastic
challenge. I love doing something new and different and finding my own way, and I just love it.
Yeah, amazing. And must be, a strong belief in the space, but also in yourself as well to, to invest all your time in something new and so different in a way, although it's obviously connected to what you've been thinking about and working on in the past, to follow your heart into this new area.
I know, and I guess maybe that's the perils of being a psychologist. Once you tell people to do that your whole life, a good 10 years, you keep telling people you're bigger than you think, you can do more than you are, the only person holding yourself back is you. Well, at some point you got to walk the walk, right?
Yes, I love that.
So yeah, I've given myself enough therapy to believe that I need to do this, and I am lucky to be able to take the time to do it. I think there's a bit of luck involved in everything, and also opportunity, but then there is jumping in with both feet in. I mean, what have I got to lose? If we said we'll do this. I mean, I've immigrated, so you do everything. And you just take a leap of faith and you give it a couple of years, and if it works, it works. And if you didn't, you just go, wow, I learned a lot. That was great.
Yeah, amazing. That's so great. And then in terms of things that you would share with someone who's sort of in the early stages or has recently stopped drinking, do you have any sort of tools or self-care practices that have worked for you or that you recommend to others that you would suggest?
I think that's where the little challenge that I've put online, which is free, comes into play, because I've just got a few. There's a lot, you would know them. There's a lot of little things. Definitely podcasts, listening to podcasts. I think I read about 12 books on the space, both funny books as well as more serious books that sort of gave you an insight. So Alcohol Explained, I don't know if you know that one.
Yeah, I haven't read that one.
Okay, and then there's Annie Grace, who, and then there's podcasts. I love Jean McCarthy. She's fantastic. She's overseas in Canada. So I followed her, and you know what it's like. You need to really be with other people who are doing this. In my head, I may not have been physically around people that were doing it, but in my ear, in my podcast, they were there. They were, listening to my perils, and they were speaking my language. So I had them, and then I think I just gained from other people doing it. And if someone said, I find this helpful, I'd try it. Or, changing routines, not cooking at 5 o'clock, because that was a massive trigger for me. I have to, I can't cook nicely without the wine. What's with that? So luckily, being in COVID, I cook now at lunchtime, and it sits there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I might slow cook. And then at 5 o'clock, that's when I'll do the walk with the dog. So I switched what I did so that I didn't have the same triggers coming up.
Wow, that's a great strategy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that worked. And isolating yourself is pretty easy right now in COVID. So use that time, use this opportunity. Don't whinge about, oh my gosh, it's COVID and lockdown. Say, you know what, this is my chance to say, I'm on my own anyway, may as well not drink.
Yeah, good opportunity to try and do things differently. And with many of us working from home, you can actually put something on at lunchtime for dinner, or to try mix up the routine a bit.
That's exactly right. I think this actually creates opportunities that we don't think of in terms of how flexible our lives are. We don't travel an hour every day to get in and out of work. So what are we doing in that time? And you would know this. You have an awful amount of extra time, don't you, when you're not drinking? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I feel as though, I don't know if it's more time, but it's more energy. And I feel like normally I'd sit down and have a drink, and that would take care of what I was going to do in the evening. But with that, without that thing to do, it's almost like, yeah, this new energy for wanting to put somewhere, like learning new things, or I've taken up sewing again, and you hear about these like early sobriety hobbies that everyone starts, juggling, or I mean, juggling might not be one, but whatever, whatever keeps your mind and your hands active and keeps you intellectually and physically stimulated enough that you're not reaching for those drinks.
Absolutely. I feel like we go back to childhood. I feel that we learn how to play again. Adults who actually have fun. Stop numbing yourself out sitting on the couch watching mindless TV, especially the news. Who wants to see that? Just do something. What's been interesting you? Like you say, take up a new hobby. That drawing, that painting is a painting I repainted. There's a couple of I paint. So there's a couple of paintings that I've done. And so
Amazing.
Yeah, it gives you time to do that.
Yeah, incredible. Oh, that's so great. And is there anything else that we haven't covered in our chat today that you would find important to mention to anyone who's going on sort of a similar journey or who's listening in to the conversation today?
I'll just sum it up in 3 words.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I love it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten. That was such a great chat and so nice to meet you and hear about your business. I will definitely be keeping an eye out for great things you'll be doing in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, it's been great. And I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. Get those inspirational voices out there. It might seem little in our space at the moment, but the more we do it, the bigger it gets.
Yeah, it's so true. Thank you so much.